Donald Trump had a meeting with top Saudi officials at the White House, and he put on an embarrassing and shameful display by bragging about how great they are for doing business with us.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have the Crown Prince with us. Saudi Arabia has been a very great friend and a big purchaser of equipment and lots of other things, and one of the biggest investments in the United States is I guess it's your big investment, is buying stock in companies and various other things in the United States and creating jobs. We've become very good friends over a fairly short period of time. I was in Saudi Arabia in May, and we are bringing back hundreds of billions of dollars into the United States, and we understand that, and they understand that. Some of the things that have been approved and are currently under construction and will be delivered to Saudi Arabia very soon, and that's for their protection. But if you look in terms of dollars, $3 billion, $533 million, $525 million, that's peanuts for you. Should have increased it. $880 million, $645 million, $6 billion, that's for frigates. 889 million, 63 million, and that's for various artillery. Some of the things that we're now working on, and that have been ordered and will shortly be started in construction and delivered. THAAD system, $13 billion. The C-130 airplanes, the Hercules, great plane, $3.8 billion. The Bradley vehicles, that's the tanks, $1.2 billion. And the P-8 Poseidons, $1.4 billion. And what it does is it really means many, many jobs. We're talking about over 40,000 jobs in the United States. So we make the best equipment in the world. There's nobody even close. And Saudi Arabia is buying a lot of this equipment, and a lot of people are at work making the equipment, not only for us, because we, as you know, we're getting a $700 billion military proposal, and that's even a lot for you guys. But we're getting a $700 billion military plan this year, and 716 will be next year, $716 billion. So we really have a great friendship, a great relationship. I would really have to say the relationship was, to put it mildly, very, very strained during the Obama administration. And the relationship now is probably as good as it's really ever been.
What a cuck. I mean, this is a guy who said when he was running for president, before he ran for president, he accurately pointed out that, 16 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia. The ideology of these extremists comes from Saudi Arabia. I'm talking, of course, about Wahhabism, the ultra-conservative, far-right interpretation, literalist interpretation of Islam that Al-Qaeda believes in, ISIS believes in. So you have a group of utter extremists. And Donald Trump goes from calling that out before he was president, when he was running for president, to becoming the number one cuck, because business overrides any practical concerns, pragmatic concerns, or massive ideological differences, or even terrorism. So business as usual, the status quo, the establishment, keeping everything trucking along as always. That's something Trump used to criticize, and now he's the biggest cheerleader of it, and he's bragging about how close he is with the Saudi crime family. What a mega cuck. That's my new nickname for Donald Trump, mega cuck. That's what you are, buddy. So holy shit, that's so sad. Now, the most important point here is those weapons are being used in a genocide. That's not an opinion. That's not conjecture. That's not Kyle putting some left-wing spin on it. That's the reality of the situation. Look at what's going on in Yemen right now. Saudi Arabia is blockading the country, not allowing in medicine. So there's a cholera epidemic over there. Not allowing in food. So there are people, millions of people who are starving to death. Saudi Arabia has targeted mosques and open air markets and hospitals and schools. They've even bombed schools for the blind. They're using cluster bombs that the U.S. has given them that are illegal under international law. So there are so many violations of international law, and it's a humanitarian crisis, and it's on purpose. It's a choice, and the U.S. has been helping them, by the way, not just arming them and giving them money and propping them up, but also helping them in terms of pointing out the places on the map where they need to be bombing. So we're carrying out a genocide. And this shows you how disconnected we are from the consequences of our actions, because when you're the world's sole superpower, doesn't matter. Who's going to hold you fucking accountable? No one's going to hold you accountable, so you don't need to give a shit about the consequences of your actions. But how pathetic is it that they're bragging about these weapons? We know they're going to be used for a genocide, and the media, I haven't heard a single fucking thing from the media connecting the dots, going, wow, we're arming people who are committing a genocide right now. That's wild. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that. Nobody in the media is saying this. Nobody in the media is talking about this. How pathetic is mainstream media in the United States of America? I mean, and then it's amazing because the other day, Donald Trump called to congratulate Putin on his re-election. Everybody melted down on TV and in corporate media. Now, Obama also did that in 2012. And Obama did that soon after Vladimir Putin invaded Georgia. Not the U.S. Georgia, the Georgia over there, for those of you who don't know. So, now nobody really made a big deal about that. Actually, that's not fair. The right wing melted down when that happened. But I said back then, no, that's what you do when you're a world leader. I don't really care about words. You're just playing the game to try to have influence over that country in one way or another. If you say, hey, congratulations on your win. Sure, he didn't actually win it, but you're just playing the game when you say stuff like that. I don't really care about words. But you know what I do care about? Material support. So, in other words, in the eyes of corporate media, it's outrageous and unacceptable when you congratulate an authoritarian leader who won an election, but it's not outrageous when we arm and prop up an authoritarian country carrying out a genocide. I don't care about the congratulations. Are you kidding me? I'd much rather have the U.S. congratulate Saudi Arabia over anything than fucking arm them and prop them up as they carry out a genocide, and we know they're carrying out a genocide. So I care about the material support pisses me off. And the U.S. supports 73% of the world's dictatorships. So the fact that they're melting down over a phone call to an authoritarian leader who we don't support materially, while they ignore the 73% of the world's dictatorships that we do support militarily, just shows you how skewed the perception is. That's all it is you're serving, militaristic ends and the military-industrial complex when you toe their line like that. And again, I just can't get over the fact that these weapons are going to be used in a genocide, and nobody in the media is going, holy shit, he's bragging about giving weapons to somebody carrying out a genocide. Could you imagine, instead of us fighting the Nazis, if at the time we ended up militarily supporting the Nazis? Could you imagine if we're like, oh, here, we're going to sell you a bunch of different warplanes, and we're going to sell you tanks, and good luck. And then you show fucking charts with how much money Are you kidding me? But there's a genocide going on in Yemen right now, primarily being carried out by Saudi Arabia with our assistance, and nobody bats an eyelash. Yeah, okay, that's what we're doing, because jobs. Oh, God. There are other ways to create jobs, like a New Deal. You could build high-speed rail. You could build a renewable energy economy. There's you rebuild our entire infrastructure. Instead, you're bragging about jobs that will be used for massacres of women and children and civilians. So this is a giant scandal. It's not being treated that way by any stretch of the imagination. And so this is Trump being cucked by the Saudis, but guess what? It's not just Donald Trump. The Senate also bowed down to Saudi Arabia. So it was Bernie Sanders and Mike Lee were just a few of a number of co-sponsors on a bill that stopped the U.S. support of Saudi Arabia in the massacre in Yemen. So they proposed a bill to stop the siege of Yemen, and 55 senators voted against ending it. Why on earth would the Senate be in favor of continuing the massacre and destruction of Yemen? Well, we know the answer. The answer is because they have many jobs in their district tied to the military-industrial complex. You know, they're very clever with how they go about this. Did you know that there's military goods that are produced in every state in the United States? So when that's the case, you get Democrats and Republicans generally being okay with making these weapons and selling these weapons around the world because they have a number of jobs in their district that are tied to that. But more importantly, many of these people get money in campaign contributions when they run for office from those so-called defense contractors. They're really offense contractors at this point. So you have senators cucked by the military-industrial complex and the Saudi crime family. Now, again, this is one of those issues where people are saying, yeah, but hey, it got more votes in favor of ending the siege of Yemen than people thought. So, yay! How's that going to look in the history books, man? Like, hey, we almost stopped the genocide that we were partaking in. Almost doesn't count for the countless dead bodies that are laying on the ground that just got hit with a missile from a plane. Almost doesn't count. So it's just beyond sad. And the Senate, and they always routinely vote in favor of continuing to arm Saudi Arabia. Is this what the American people want? Take a poll. Ask the American people how they feel about this. They're not going to agree with the Senate. And then the final point I'll make here is there are now allegations of the Saudis owning Jared Kushner. The Saudi prince was heard saying, yeah, Jared Kushner was in my pocket. And The Intercept has a great piece where they go into detail, where they explain how Jared Kushner was reading the president's briefings. Like, the most top secret information I was getting. So he knew everything, okay? And one night he decided, I'm going to fly to Saudi Arabia for a meeting. Now, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson at the time did not approve of it, was not okay with it, but Jared Kushner was like, I'm going to Saudi Arabia. So he went to Saudi Arabia, and apparently him and the Crown Prince stayed up until 4 o'clock in the morning a few nights in a row. And guess what? It was soon after Jared Kushner left that the Saudi Crown Prince went and got all the people who were not okay with his power grab and locked them up at the hotel in Riyadh and tortured at least one of them to death and forced them to sign over billions of dollars worth of assets. So the idea is Jared Kushner was reading these briefings. One of the things in these briefings was the names of the people who were against the Saudi Crown Prince consolidating power, his brazen power grab. So Jared Kushner went to Saudi Arabia, told the Crown Prince, in exchange for what? Who knows? Told the Crown Prince, hey, here are your enemies. And then the Crown Prince said, thank you, I'll get you back soon with whatever, money, investments in some Kushner properties or whatever. And then the Saudi Crown Prince rounded up all the people who were his enemies and against his power grab, and then locked him away. So this could be Jared Kushner. You want to talk about collusion. You want to talk about sharing classified information. And then Rex Tillerson, there was a time when Rex Tillerson heard about what Jared Kushner was doing behind his back, and he's like, who the fuck is Secretary of State here? Is it me or is it him? So Kushner is doing some fuckery. There's no doubt about that. And this is the influence that Saudi Arabia has over our government. And this is the level of corruption that we're dealing with. The Senate does their bidding even when they're carrying out genocide. Jared Kushner likely told the crown prince who's against him, and then he locked him up. The crown prince locked him up. And now Donald Trump is just bragging about the amount of weapons that we're giving them so they can continue to carry out that genocide. If you're not beyond pissed off by this and outraged by this, you ain't paying attention.